Tony, fix the bags now before it jams.
I've done this longer than you've been here.
No, I don't need you telling me how to do my job.
This is procedure. Follow it.
Procedure? Please.
I run this place more than you
Please,
ever will.
you're out of line.
You really think you're in charge here? Security to gate 12, now.
The airport was buzzing, the kind of morning rush that made every small mistake feel catastrophic. Cameras scanned every corner, security gates beeped, and travelers hustled past, some already annoyed by delays. But nobody expected what would happen in Terminal B that morning. Tommy Langston had worked at the airport for almost 7 years. His $150,000 salary wasn't just a number, it was the reason he could afford his modest house, his kids' tuition, and the little luxuries he allowed himself. He had always believed he ran the place, or at least that nobody above him mattered too much. That was before Danielle Evans arrived. Danielle was new. She was sharp, confident, and yes, black. A fact Tony made abundantly clear in his mind, even if he never said it out loud to her face. She didn't wear her authority like a costume, she earned it. From the first day, she changed the way the terminal operated. Staff who had been coasting for years suddenly had rules, expectations, and accountability. Tommy, however, wasn't ready to adjust. He called it overbearing, but Danielle called it professional standards. The tension simmered for weeks, small sparks in the background. Tony rolling his eyes when she walked by, muttering under his breath, taking shortcuts he shouldn't. But Danielle noticed. She wasn't the type to ignore disrespect. It all came to a head on a Thursday morning, exactly at 10:14 a.m., right in front of Gate 12. CCTV footage later showed every second. Tony was stacking luggage incorrectly, ignoring the warning lights on the conveyor. Danielle approached. "Tony, adjust the bags before they pile up," she said, calm but firm. Tony snapped. "I've done this 1,000 times. I don't need a babysitter." His voice was loud enough that passengers looked over. Danielle stepped closer. "This isn't about babysitting. This is about following procedures. I expect compliance." Tony laughed, but it wasn't friendly. "Expect all you want. I run this terminal more than you ever will." His eyes narrowed, a smirk curling across his face. The words were heavy, charged with resentment, and Danielle felt the tension spike instantly. The security camera in the corner caught it all. The sneer, the harsh laugh, the deliberate defiance. Every angle captured Tony's expression, the way he pointed his finger like a weapon, and Danielle's unshaken stance as she stared him down. Tony didn't stop there. He leaned in, inches from her face, and muttered something that would seal his fate forever. "You think you can run this place because of your skin? Think again." Danielle didn't flinch. Instead, she pressed a button on her walkie-talkie, keeping her voice low but commanding. "Security, we need assistance at Gate 12. Code red, staff conflict." Passengers murmured. Some pulled out their phones. Cameras everywhere were recording. In that moment, Tony realized it wasn't just an argument, it was evidence. Every word, every move, every insult had been captured. And Danielle? She was unshakable. Before security arrived, Danielle stood there, arms crossed, her gaze locked on Tony. "You're done here, Tony. Your behavior is unacceptable." Tony scoffed, trying to brush it off, but inside, the fear was creeping in. He had no idea the footage would be played back in full for HR, and worse, the news would spread fast once it leaked. He turned away, muttering insults under his breath, but the cameras caught that too. His smirk faltered, the tension he had carried for weeks collapsing under the weight of his own arrogance. That morning, Tommy lost more than his composure. He lost the only job that paid him 6 figures, the respect he thought was guaranteed, and any chance to ever look professional on a permanent record again. And all of it was on camera, in 4K. Before we continue, I want to know something important. Where are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe, because what happens next will shock you. Tony walked away thinking he could fight the system. He thought he could bully his way past rules. But the next moments, captured on every CCTV angle, which showed just how quickly a single bad decision could destroy a career. Danielle didn't smile, didn't gloat. She simply returned to her duties, letting the cameras do the talking. By lunchtime, the footage had already made rounds among airport management. Emails were sent. HR prepared statements. The terminal staff whispered in stunned disbelief. Tony, who once commanded respect, was now the subject of viral attention, but for all the wrong reasons. The tension didn't end at the terminal. Word spread quickly. Airport leadership reviewed the footage, frame by frame. There was no denying the words, the tone, the hostility, especially the racial undertones, which made the violation even more serious. Danielle's calm professionalism contrasted sharply with Tony's fury. It wasn't just a fight between employees. It was a moment that reflected the changing dynamics of workplaces everywhere. And Tony? He had no idea how quickly his life was about to change. By 3 p.m., Tony was called into HR. CCTV clips played on a large screen. Every insult, every act of defiance, every disrespectful glare was displayed. Tony's face drained of color as he watched himself, trapped in his own arrogance. Effective immediately, HR announced, "Your employment is terminated." Tony tried to argue, But his words fell flat. The evidence spoke for itself. The terminal he had walked into that morning with confidence was now a place where he was completely powerless. And outside, people who had witnessed parts of the confrontation on CCTV or in passing through the terminal couldn't help but talk. Videos leaked online, the caught in 4K moment going viral. People shared it, commented on it, debated it. Tony became a cautionary tale overnight. By evening, Tony's phone was ringing off the hook, not with job offers, but with notifications from social media. Clips of him, furious, disrespectful, and undeniably caught. He had thought he was untouchable. He was not. Danielle, meanwhile, returned to her office. She didn't celebrate. She knew the cameras had already done what needed to be done. Her authority was established, and she had handled the confrontation with a calm that left no room for dispute. Tommy's $150,000/year life evaporated in front of the world, all because he couldn't control his pride, his bias, or his anger. And the worst part? He had no one to blame but himself. By the next morning, Tommy Langston's life had shifted into chaos. His phone buzzed endlessly with notifications, some from friends, most from strangers. The airport CCTV footage had gone viral overnight. Social media wasn't kind. Clips titled "Airport Employee Caught in 4K Disrespecting Black Boss" racked up millions of views within hours. Comments ranged from outrage to disbelief. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had seen him fail. Tommy paced his living room, yelling at the ceiling, trying to convince himself it wasn't real. "I didn't do anything wrong," he shouted. But deep down he knew better. Every smirk, every insult, every dismissive gesture was there on the screen. Every angle, every detail. 4K resolution left nothing to imagination. Meanwhile, Danielle Evans was already at the airport, her schedule relentless. She ignored the gossip, ignored the whispers, and focused on her work. Her calmness only fueled Tony's frustration. He wanted revenge, to reclaim some shred of dignity, but he had no plan. Just anger, burning hotter by the minute. Tony called his old coworkers, trying to rally support. Some sympathized quietly, unsure what to say. Others distanced themselves immediately. Loyalty vanished the moment the video spread. His friends who had once laughed with him now stared at the footage in disbelief. Even his closest ally at the airport couldn't defend him. He decided to confront Danielle, not politely, not with apologies. No, he wanted her to feel the same humiliation he did. He returned to Terminal B, walking with a swagger he hoped would mask fear. Passengers glanced, sensing the tension before it even erupted. When Danielle spotted him, she raised an eyebrow. "Back so soon?" she asked, her tone calm but cutting. Tommy clenched his fists. "We need to talk, alone." "Not here. Not now," Danielle replied firmly. She wasn't raising her voice, but every word carried authority. "HR has seen the footage. The decision is final." Tommy's face twisted with rage. "You can't just ruin my life. I've worked here longer than you've even been alive." His voice echoed across the terminal, attracting attention. Danielle didn't flinch. "Experience doesn't excuse behavior, Tony, and respect isn't optional." The racial undertone in Tony's earlier remarks had made the situation explosive. Danielle knew the public reaction would be swift. It wasn't just about losing a job. It was a story that would travel fast, forcing accountability. Tony's attempt to regain control only made things worse. Security guards were already nearby, watching carefully. They didn't need to intervene yet. Tony was still mostly contained by his own fury, but Danielle pressed a button on her walkie-talkie, signaling that if he escalated, it would be over instantly. Tony glared at her, breathing heavily. "This isn't over. People will see I'm the real victim here." Danielle shook her head. "The footage doesn't lie. You insulted me because of my race. You threatened safety procedures. You've humiliated yourself. That's not being a victim, Tony. That's being reckless." Tony's rage boiled over. He grabbed a nearby stack of luggage, tossing it aside in frustration. The movement triggered another camera angle, capturing him in mid-anger, his face red and shaking. Danielle's expression remained calm, almost unreadable, as if she had already predicted every move. Within minutes, the incident was lit on Twitter and TikTok. Clips from Terminal B, showing Tony yelling and Danielle standing firm, went viral again. The hashtags exploded. Hashtag caught in 4K, hashtag airport drama, hashtag respect matters. The story reached national news within hours. Tony realized his options were disappearing fast. No one would hire someone publicly seen berating a black superior. No one would risk their reputation over him. His salary, his house, his lifestyle, all in jeopardy. He tried one last tactic. He recorded his own video, claiming he was misunderstood, that Danielle had provoked him, that the cameras didn't show the whole story. But the video lacked impact. The raw, unedited CCTV footage had already convinced everyone. His tone sounded defensive, desperate, and insincere. Meanwhile, Danielle's reputation skyrocketed. She didn't seek attention, didn't post on social media, but the public admired her professionalism and composure under fire. Her handling of Tony became a case study in workplace leadership, particularly when confronting disrespect and racial bias. Back at his home, Tony scrolled through comments, each one sharper than the last. Wow, caught in 4K karma is real. This guy literally destroyed his own career. Imagine thinking disrespect like that is acceptable. He tried to reply, but his words seemed powerless against the avalanche of viral judgment. The situation escalated further when local news stations obtained interviews from passengers who had witnessed parts of the confrontation. Their statements matched the CCTV footage perfectly. Tony's narrative crumbled under the weight of public scrutiny. By the evening, Tony knew he had to leave his house just to clear his head, but walking outside, he couldn't escape whispers, stares, and phones raised as people recorded him, mocking him, comparing him to the viral clips. He was literally the man in the 4K video. Danielle, however, remained unaffected in public view. She moved with the same confidence, the same authority, as if the storm around her didn't exist. For Tony, every step outside was a reminder. The world had seen him fail, and there was no going back. At night, alone, Tony stared at the ceiling again. He thought about his $150,000 salary, the life he had taken for granted. The respect he had assumed was guaranteed. All gone. And the most painful part, Danielle hadn't even needed to fight him physically. The cameras had done all the work. And then came the calls from journalists, requests for interviews, offers to comment on viral news segments. Tony declined each one. But even by staying silent, he couldn't escape the spotlight. Every mention of Terminal B and Caught in 4K brought his name back into public discussion. Danielle's team, meanwhile, ensured internal training focused on respect, compliance, and professionalism. Tony's actions had inadvertently made her authority unassailable. The airport's leadership learned a harsh lesson: how quickly public perception and recorded evidence could destroy a career. Tony realized the truth he had ignored. Respect wasn't about seniority or tenure. It wasn't about who had worked the longest or thought they ran the place. It was about conduct, accountability, and yes, confronting racial bias with dignity. And he had failed on every level. Tony was a man trapped not only by public exposure, but also by his own pride. The viral footage had changed his life irreversibly. Every choice he had made in that terminal, every insult, every smirk, every defiance, had been captured, replayed, and judged by millions. And yet, this was just the beginning. Tony Langston couldn't sleep, not for 1 second. The video, the comments, the news clips, everything played in his mind on repeat. Every word Danielle had said, every frame of him sneering and yelling, was burned into his memory. He had lost his job, his reputation, and his sense of control in a single morning. By mid-morning, his phone rang again. This time, it wasn't friends or journalists. It was his landlord. "Tony, the rent's overdue," the voice said, calm but firm. Tony slammed the phone down. His $150,000 salary wasn't coming back, and the reality of bills, mortgage, and living expenses hit him like a freight train. He needed a plan. Desperation had set in. He considered reaching out to Danielle directly, thinking maybe if he apologized sincerely, things could be fixed. But he knew deep down it wouldn't work, not after the racial undertones of his insult, and not after the footage was already public. Danielle had handled it perfectly, and the cameras had captured everything. There was no way to rewind what he had done. Still, Tony tried. He wrote a message, fumbling for words that sounded humble without appearing weak. "Danielle, I want to apologize. I overreacted. Please, can we talk?" He hesitated, then deleted it. Pride and fear of rejection stopped him.